Hi, and welcome to the Curious Cardiologist podcast. My name is Dr. Sanjay Bhojraj, board-certified interventional cardiologist and functional medicine practitioner. In this podcast, I'm going to look at old problems in new ways. We're going to have a series of guests who are going to force us to challenge the status quo and rethink the way we approach health. Because I found in conventional medicine, we really just treat things, but what we need to do is focus on healing. So if that sounds like something that you like, if you're a practitioner, if you are a patient, if you're someone who's just looking to optimize your health, you found the right place. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Curious Cardiologist podcast. I am Dr. Sanjay Bhojraj, and as you know, here at the Curious Cardiologist podcast, we're always looking at old problems in new ways. And today, I'm so excited to bring on our one of my friends, Dr. Shivani Gupta. She is an amazing human, a PhD in Ayurvedic medicine, founder of Fusionary Formulas, an amazing Ayurvedic supplement company that I'm sure we'll start talking about soon, and is the author of The Inflammation Code, her book, which is available now. So if you don't want to buy it yet, by the end of this interview, you'll definitely want to go out and get it. And I definitely suggest that you do. I had the opportunity to read it a few weeks ago, and it blew my mind. So Dr. Gupta, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. And let's just kind of dive in because on the podcast, like I said, what we normally do is look at old problems in new ways, but I think you're kind of looking at an old therapy in a new way, right? I mean, Ayurveda has been around for how long?
5,000 years.
5,000 years.
Yeah.
Wow. And so for those listeners, and even though as being Indian, I should know exactly what it is, but I'm sure there's so much nuance. Like, what exactly is Ayurvedic medicine and Ayurvedic science?
So, Ayurveda is this ancient system of health, healing, and medicine from India. It's over 5,000 years old, and it's really a way of life. It's what we call lifestyle medicine, the original root cause medicine. And so, I see so many synergies between functional medicine and Ayurvedic medicine because right now we're having so many conversations around preventive. How do we really win at inflammation, root cause? So within Ayurveda, I teach different topics like what is your mind body constitution and how do you navigate life from that place? Or another big concept out of Ayurveda is circadian clock. The circadian clock is an Ayurvedic concept that we're talking about so much in modern day life. Or even gut health. Ayurveda taught us gut health is the center of all health, brain health, mood, immune health, everything. Then I teach a lot about the super spices because the herbs and spices from Ayurveda were one of those precision tools they used with us when we had an issue to get us out of trouble. And then in the end, Ayurveda really said, look, if we win at lymphatic health, inflammation, detoxing, using these different self care rituals in a rhythm, then that's how we build this lifestyle rhythm that we need for optimal health.
Yeah, and what I love about this, and I'll tell you, you'll probably crack up, but my introduction to Ayurveda was literally the Complete Idiot's Guide to Ayurvedic Medicine. I have it here in the background somewhere because I'd heard so much about it, and on the functional medicine journey, it kind of came up, and I thought, I should probably learn about this a little bit more. So I ended up buying that book, and the more I read it, the more I realized that 5,000 years ago, these people, these Ayurvedic practitioners, had defined almost all of the things exactly as you mentioned that we talk about in functional medicine. One of which, and personalized medicine, really,
Right.
if you think about it, because there are these three, what, doshas? Is that what they're called? These three kind of patterns of humans, and as you kind of figure out which is your kind of major and minor kind of constitutions, they come up with these programs. But a lot of them are things that we already talk about, like intermittent fasting and sleeping and daylight cycles and rhythms. So, when you look at this, right, maybe let's spend some time talking about these doshas and what they are, because it was amazing to me how 5,000 years ago these people had figured out kind of all the stuff that we're doing today, right? With modern medicine.
It's so true. And I love it. I've been studying functional medicine. I just signed up for a new course on it because I'm always correlating. I'm always seeing all the similarities. And I think there's such power to the amount of testing we can do in functional medicine right now. And then how beautifully it correlates to let's heal those issues. They're pretty acute sometimes. But then let's get into the lifestyle. And all the lifestyle is taught within Ayurveda as a system and as a practice. And so the concept of doshas is based on the elements, and the five elements are air, ether, fire, water, and earth. And when I was writing this book, I thought if I put in 100 different weird new Sanskrit words that no one can pronounce, we're going to have some problems. And so I took a lot of them and renamed them into ways we can understand. And so I took the doshas and I renamed it elemental design because I'm going to teach everyone how to take those elements and then design your entire life around what your individual constitution is. And so I have the elemental design quiz that everyone can take to know their kind at my website at drshivani.com. And when you take the quiz, it spits out an answer. And you'll learn what's your primary constitution, and then you can even look further into your secondary and third. And so a Vata person, the first constitution we talk about is Vata. In the West, we pronounce it Vata.
Just like Sanjay is pronounced Sanjay. Yeah.
Okay. It's so funny. Like sometimes I'll say my name Gupta, and my husband's like, "That's not how you say our last name." I'm like, "Oh yeah."
I have this whole discussion about what's your Starbucks name. My Starbucks name is Jay because it's just not worth it. Just
Exactly. Mine's Vanessa. I'm like,
Are you serious?
I'm not making you type Shivani properly. It's not gonna work.
All right.
So in Vanessa, the same way, I wish I had a great easy name for Ayurveda, because that's half the problem. Everyone's like, how do you say Ayurveda? Like that's a weird, hard word.
Well, elemental,
I had to simplify.
Elementia. Who knows? We'll come up with something for you.
Exactly.
All right. Anyway, sorry.
Back to Vata. I would have taken Ayurveda. So yes, so the first elemental design is Vata, which we pronounce Vata here in the West. Yeah. And a Vata person is made up of air and ether. That's their primary elements. And so this body type, you can imagine, is kind of like the elements of air, like a beautiful breeze. But air could also be a ceiling fan, something that's in motion and never stops. It could also be a tornado. Could be like a cyclone that's like violent and causes damage. And so imagine the same air type can have different aspects to it, or different like personalities even. And air can be cold, it can be drying. And so those same properties would exist in this person. So a Vata person is typically taller or shorter than anyone in their demographic. So you're thinking like tall and lanky or small and petite. This is someone with smaller bones. This is someone with long oval face, maybe dry brittle hair. This is someone who's lean, thinner, on the thin side. And this person, personality-wise, is always in motion. This is that person who's like a go-getter. They don't know how to sit still.
I can picture like 25 people that I know like this.
Exactly. And sometimes they're a busybody, like they just can't sit down or sit still. This is that marathon endurance runner typically, or someone who just won't have a job that requires them to sit still, which podcasting does. We have to sit still. So I've only met one Vata who's a podcaster.
They don't exist in the podcast universe, these folks.
They don't.
Or the people on social media, they're always walking.
Yes.
Like I think like David Goggins, right? This guy who's like a ultra marathoner. So like he famously, he's always running as he's holding his camera and kind of going everywhere.
Exactly. So that's that endurance person. This same person, from a health perspective, their mind is always going 100 miles a minute. They're always in motion. The health issues that they can struggle with are constipation, because they are so dry. They can suffer with insomnia. They can suffer with anxiety and things like that. And so the homework from Ayurveda, the antidote to that is we want to help them ground their energy. We want to help them eat 3 square meals a day, because this is someone who could run through their entire day. And they're like, yeah, I had coffee, I had some juice, I had some like chips, I was good. And they get to dinner and all of a sudden they're out of steam, exhausted, and they don't know what happened. But it's because they never really ate food. And I think no fueling. And they're kind of one of those constitutions that can get away with it. And so my job is to teach them eat 3 square meals a day, eat more grounding foods, eat more healthy fat, eat more cooked foods, since we have such a dry colon. It's like easier to digest foods until you're healthy and robust. And then you can go back to some of your ways. And then a Pitta person is fire with some water. So this constitution is someone who's fiery. They run hot. This is someone who's more medium-bodied. They're kind of in the middle of the 3 constitutions. Tend to have reddish skin, reddish hair. So anyone with like a reddish tone, you can be like, oh, I think that's a Pitta. They tend towards early graying in their hair. And it's Pitta, or in the West, we pronounce it Pitta. And so the fire person is someone who...
Or Peter, if you're at Starbucks, maybe.
Maybe. And so A Pitta person is someone who is really fiery in the mind. So like passionate, driven. They're like your organized person, entrepreneurial. They want to just go out and create things. The negative sign of Pitta is they tend to run inflamed. They're like a fire that can overburn. Pittas get hangry. They have to eat or you don't want to know them. When they are over burnt out, they're like a volcano. They get angry, frustrated. Everyone around them is kind of collateral damage. They're quite perfectionist then, and they're not really easy to be around. And so I teach my Pittas the way to stay balanced is to treat yourself like a nuclear reactor. Stay hydrated, eat on time, cooling foods, because Pittas want to eat the hot, oily, spicy foods, and then they're
Mhm.
further inflamed and hot and dysregulated.
It kind of, the foods drive their narrative, in a speak,
Correct.
in a sense. Okay.
Correct. And so when you want to bring yourself back into balance, you have to release those things that are exacerbating the issues. And so pittas can tend to really burn the candle at both ends. So that's why I teach so much about circadian clock and sleep and these things, because these are all going to cool down and balance the system. And then the final one is Kapha. We pronounce it Kapha. And so Kapha is that earth and water energy. This is someone who's so earthly. They're so grounded. This is someone who is heavier boned, bigger structure. This is someone who can lift heavier. They have that resilience and strength. Tend to have rounder features, so round face, round eyes, oily curly hair.
Or
So you can
basically
kind
like me.
of so like rounder features. And then this person's very grounded. So in a man, it's like this very mountain energy. In a woman, it could be a more caretaker energy, that grandma energy who wants to feed everyone and take care of everyone. But this is that person who's really loyal. Like they are the person who takes care of everyone else first, forgets about themselves, but just taking care of everyone else makes them happy. And they're very one thing at a time. So one action at a time, one movement at a time, one word at a time. And so with Kapha, some of the
I feel like
yeah.
you're like staring into my soul right now. Like, I feel like,
That's the fun of Ayurveda is like you can start speaking and someone's like, "How did you know that about me?"
yeah, it's
What?
like, okay, that's kind of creepy.
And so it's very deliberate action. This is not someone who you're going to like speed up at race pace. Like the Pittas will go too fast, Vatas will go way too fast. Kapha's like, no, slow and steady wins the race, and I'm not here to have too much change at one time. They're very much deliberate in their action. And Kapha people can tend towards a sluggish metabolism. If they're
Mhm.
really stuck, they can tend towards depression or feeling a little low. And so the homework from Ayurveda is to show them to move their energy in the morning so their energy is moved for the day, show them how to support that metabolism, show them how to eat more cooked foods that are easier to digest. Because they have that earth with water, they can tend towards congestion and kind of slowing down. And so we
Mhm.
want to give them the foods that are easy for them to eat. And then we encourage them to create change in their lives. So maybe it's like a workout buddy or new things to kind of get them moving.
I mean, I think I kind of know which of the three. And then so those are the three main, but you could also have elements of the others, right? As like secondary or tertiary. So it's not just all
Correct.
one or the other. You can kind of float in between, or even, you talked about cycles.
Yeah.
Can certain cycles of the seasons and stuff affect some of your dosha elements, I guess? I don't know what the right phrase would be
Exactly.
there.
No, you got it exactly right. So we all have a primary and a secondary. Some people can be three doshic, balanced in all three. One example is I am a pitta. I'm really driven and focused, but I can have a tendency towards this vata mind that wants to go 200 miles an hour. And I have to constantly like rein it in, like stop, just because every idea exists on social media and on earth doesn't mean you do it. Let's stay on one lane, one plan.
Yeah.
And so that's important. And then also, anytime we have like huge life events, it can really shift us. So having kids, for example, really put me into a guffa phase of life. I was home feeding everyone, taking care of kids, and then eventually kind of worked to get myself back into my lane of my constitution. So life events can definitely kind of shift us. And my job as a practitioner is to sit with people and show them this was your original constitution. Let's bring you back to home so you feel like yourself in your body.
Well, and it's amazing as you're speaking, right? Because again, like back to that complete idiot's guide to Ayurveda that I read, it seems as though this is, and you'd said this as well, kind of original and personalized medicine. And now when we think of personalized medicine, we talk about genomic testing and proteomics and transcriptomics and kind of what your body is doing. But this is, I think, as important as genomics, because in that world of kind of precision medicine, as we call it, there's this, what your genes are, and then there's the difference of what your genes do, right? So you can have, you can have a Ferrari, right, in your driveway. Doesn't mean that you're driving fast all the time and getting a speeding ticket, right? So you have the tool, but you may not have the action. And so this is a way to almost codify kind of going from your life and your like almost like a reversing, design your biology from your life, like your lifestyle habits and the things and the rhythms that we set on a regular basis that just seem normal to us are actually then codified and defined to almost reverse engineer what our biology is like. I mean,
True.
is that a fair way to think of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so fascinating how in functional medicine we are diving into the genetic piece so much. I've done multiple DNA tests on me, and it's always fascinating because I think in the future we're going to have clinical trials that start to properly also test for dosha, or as I'm going to call it, elemental design. And I've seen that. Some people have done that, and I put one in the book. I talked about one study where they had correlated your dosha to heart disease.
Hmm.
Because if you can imagine who's going to suffer with heart disease the most, it's the pittas. We drive ourselves into a state of such inflammation. We drive ourselves too hard. We're like the perfect setup. We want everything oily and fried. We want to
Which was,
work over working out. It's like
yeah.
a and interestingly, if you look at my family history, that's all we have. It's quadruple bypasses, heart attacks that are devastating. Like again and again and again, it's the same problem. But then if you look at a lineage of people who are more Vata, you're going to have a different set of issues or a set of Kapha people. And so it is interesting that lineup of genetics with this. And you're right, as you look at your constitution, you can start to see your patterns and then you can understand how to really leverage your constitution better. So, for example, as a Pitta, I learned if I drive through the summer at the same pace that I do all year long, I will burn out. It's just so clear. And that is what Ayurveda taught us this whole time is honor your circadian rhythm and your circadian season customized to your elemental design and then take those breaks when your body needs it most and then you're fueled for the rest of the year. And so that's what I talked about in the book is let's build our own rhythm and not listen to society's rhythm at all. And then
Right.
you get to see how you feel. And you might be so much more energized and have this vitality as opposed to feeling how you're feeling now.
Yeah, and I think a important part of that, as you mentioned, is kind of honoring what is natural to you, right? I remember in high school, um, one of I was like a very by the book, accept society kind of a guy, but we had this one free thinker, right? And he was like the problem kid, but he's like super smart, and his big thing was, why does lunch have to be at 11:30 or 12:30 or whatever it was? Because what if I'm not hungry then? Like, is society making me have to feel hungry in this? And we're like, dude, it's just freaking lunch. Calm down, right? Like, what the heck, right? We're just teenagers trying to get through the day. But now I kind of understand a little bit more of as we look back and we are all different. We have different energies, different frequencies, different inputs and outputs. Is that our timings may be very different, right? I'm sure there's certain for humans, there are certain kind of we all need water, we all need food, right? We all don't want to be cold or we don't be so there's certain probably constants throughout, but as we personalize and kind of honor our own rhythms, like there's probably a lot more variance in there than we realize. And it almost seems like Ayurveda Ayurveda seems to be almost like a dashboard, right? That we're learning how to read of ourselves. It's like it's a
Exactly.
way to kind of see insight into ourselves, and in a lot of ways, as you mentioned, just by changing our lifestyle, we can optimize for our particular dosha.
Exactly. And a lot of times in modern day life, we're really forcing a lot of modern trends and saying everyone has to do them. So, for example, intermittent fasting. I love intermittent fasting. Ayurveda taught intermittent fasting. It said 7 to 7, ideal. Please don't eat dinner 3 hours before bed. Please finish your dinner by then. Let the body process and digest. On that circadian clock, 10 to 2 is the most important time for the majority of us to be sleeping. It kind of taught it as in everyone, but nowadays I personalize a little. But 10 to 2, you have that melatonin release. That's when the lymphatic cleans out. So Ayurveda said the trash goes out during that window, you must be sleeping. But what's interesting is nowadays we're talking about bigger intermittent fasts. Vatas don't need that. Vatas need to eat their 3 square meals. Otherwise, they're so dysregulated. But that crew wants to be extreme with their health. And they're like, sure, I'll eat 1 meal a day. That's a great idea. But they're all air. So that doesn't make sense. Then we have cortisol dysregulation, hormone issues, and things like that. So I think it's going to be fascinating as Ayurveda comes more online, especially alongside with functional medicine, because they're so systems based and they're so organized in their thinking, we'll be able to use this as another tool and say, hey, here's your dashboard. Yeah, intermittent fasting is valid, but for you, let's keep it a little easy. And for those Kaphas, they can go full force. And Pittas need to be intermediate with it. Or cold smoothies. Everyone's like, just have your cold smoothie in the morning and jam your whole life into it. Well, let's not put 20 things. Ayurveda would never say to mix 20 ingredients anyway. We would
Yeah.
say keep
Yeah.
it simple for digestion. But cold isn't good for everyone, first thing. We want the kaphas to eat something that they can actually digest and absorb. So there is a lot of personalization there. And a lot of times we're forcing things on ourselves and then we ask, why am I failing? Why am I
Hmm.
failing at the issue? And it's
Yeah.
like, well, you're fighting your nature. And what if you
Well,
didn't fight yourself?
I mean, I think that's so important. I mean, how many of us have seen this either at work or gym or church or whatever? Oh, look at, so and so, they did this diet and they lost all this weight, and then you try it and you gain like 50 pounds or whatever. And there's a frustration, right? I mean, I think that there's a frustration, there's a feeling of failure, there's feelings of guilt, like, oh, I didn't do something right, and people can kind of, in a sense, gaslight themselves. But we have to realize that there's so much more behind it. And as you're talking about intermittent fasting and things, one of the things that came up, I don't know if you're aware of this, Shivani, but women are different than men. I don't know if that's ever come up in your, but
It's a
but
topic that keeps me pretty enraged, the level of
like,
non-customization for
you guys have no
women.
idea how hard it is to be a man. But one of the things that came up was the use of intermittent fasting in women
Yeah,
at different phases, right? Menopause,
correct.
perimenopause, age of fertility, all of these things, and how there are differential effects. And some women at certain phases in life, like, just should not intermittent fast. It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And so as we talk about you mentioned life events and the changing of the cycles and the changing of the rhythms, what works when you're 20 is not what's going to work when you're 30 or when you're 40 or when you're 50. All of us who are now, I'm approaching 50, like, yeah, stuff just isn't working the same way that it did 20 years ago or 30 years ago. Like, I wear bifocal contacts.
Yeah.
And I was just on vacation and I had dailies that were not bifocal, and I didn't realize how blind I am, right?
Yeah.
Without reading glasses and things. So things change kind of quickly. And what I love with this concept is that there's an evolution of our compositions and our rhythms over time, and we need
Correct.
to honor that and be aware. So as you look at Ayurveda, I mean, it almost seems as though, although it was invented 5,000 years ago, it is more relevant today than ever, right?
Oh,
Because
for sure.
one of the things that I think of when I approach clients and patients is, our bodies are under attack
Right.
from all of the modern inputs, be it Wi-Fi or blue light or heat or cold or, ultra processed foods or whatever these are. And a lot of what I preach is just go back to simpler times and, go to bed when the sun isn't up and wake up when it is and eat and stuff like that. So, I mean, do you feel that same way, that now more than ever, Ayurveda needs to come into the light, so to speak, and people at least need to have an awareness of this for optimal health?
For sure. I feel like now is the moment for Ayurveda. I think we need it more than ever. I think it's good that so many people are coming online and talking about circadian rhythm. The biohacking world is so aligned with Ayurveda. It's like all technology built on all the principles of Ayurveda. You look at
Yeah.
the longevity space, all we're teaching is go back to those basic principles. Live in rhythm with nature. Circadian clock matters. Use superfoods and super spices to win. Do more detox rituals every day. I mean, everything we're kind of teaching is from the playbook of Ayurveda. And that's why when I wrote the book, I actually kept it kind of like what you're talking about, like the simple guide to take the Ayurvedic lifestyle and put it into your own life, like a guidebook, like a very simple guidebook. And as you read it, you're like, okay, I got elemental design down. Perfect. Let's look at circadian and let's customize circadian to our constitution. Okay, next, gut digestive fire. Perfect. I will align that to my body type. Next, let's look at self-care rituals that are detoxing every day. Let's align it to that. So that was my dream, is for everyone to just start living the Ayurveda lifestyle, which, like you said, is just a simpler, cleaner way of life. And we're living in a moment where life is so toxic. The environmental burdens are
Mm.
so significant. We're kind of like people walking around with our own individual house fires going on, with damage happening from the inside.
I'd call them dumpster fires. We all have our own dumpster fires,
We
right?
do. I mean, dumpster fire is so negative. I'm just gonna call it a house fire, so it feels a little more elegant.
All right.
But
Okay. You can
yes,
be. Your fans do that. Yeah. but we're all kind of train wrecks. Yeah, but I get it.
We are. We're walking around with this house fire. We are ablaze, DNA getting damaged, body getting damaged from the inside, oxidative stress, all the things. And I feel like I'm walking around with fire extinguishers, and I'm just like, here you go. Take some turmeric, take some ginger, take your constitution. Can
I'm
you
picturing
just
like
sleep?
Oprah. You get turmeric, you get ginger, you get garlic, you get garam masala. Like,
I saw my friend today with knee pain. I was like, I'm going to drive to your house today with turmeric. I mean, please just don't start at the NSAIDs. I've got you. I will be there. And she's like, you don't have to. I was like, I can't imagine a world where we just keep numbing ourselves out and not
yeah.
realizing that between sleep, turmeric, and a couple simple changes, we could win at inflammation all day. That's why I called it the inflammation code. I could have called it like the Ayurveda guidebook to life, because
Yeah.
that is what it is. But I wanted to call it inflammation code so people get it. Inflammation is the root cause issue, and we have to build a lifestyle that prevents it, or we will forever be, as you're calling it, a dumpster fire.
Well, and I always think of, Finding Nemo. You saw that movie Finding Nemo,
Of
right?
course.
And in the scene where they want to escape, right? They're in that little fish bowl or whatever, the fish tank in the dentist's office. And what do? They put a little pebble in the filter, in the detox system, and the
Block it.
bowl just gets gross, right?
Yeah.
And when I think of modern medicine, that's kind of what I think of, is that, we've got all these detox and all that stuff. And rather than cleaning out the water, what we're doing is just medicating the fish, right? We're just sedating the fish to try and say not to care. And what I love about what Ayurveda brings and how you're bringing it into modern is that we're looking at that root cause, right? Of inflammation, of detoxification, and all the different arms of Ayurveda, to really basically unstick that pebble from that filter and just get the body's system as it's designed to do to work optimally again.
Exactly. Ayurveda teaches us the body knows how to be healthy. The body knows how to heal itself. The problem is we're so inflamed and we're living in such a dysregulated life with our circadian clock. And so it can be simple habits. I teach one habit, like if you can, in the morning, get out in the sunlight. And again in the evening, let's align to the sun. It can be 5 minutes. Sometimes, if I don't want to go for a walk, I will just sit in my backyard, even if I'm still on my phone, just so the sunlight is hitting me and I'm aligning to the clock. Or I
Yeah.
teach another self care habit like tea time is me time. I'm like, just pause a couple times a day, sip a hot beverage, and tune in and just ask yourself basic questions like, how am I feeling today? What do I need to do for today to be better? And these micro moments of us just taking pauses are a way for us to drop out of the sympathetic nervous system, drop into parasympathetic, relax, and our own body actually holds the wisdom of what we need. My body usually says, your headache is because you're dehydrated. You forgot to take your turmeric and all your supplements today. You need to sleep on time today. But our own intuition can also come up with answers like, you need to cancel that. You need to say no. You're
Yeah.
saying yes to too much. This is exhausting. And so much of what Ayurveda is saying is there's this gorgeous, beautiful rhythm. We all can tune into that rhythm. We're choosing not to. And thus, we're building so much dysregulation, dysbiosis. And
Well,
just getting to
and
the rhythm is perfect.
Well, and if you think about the way society is set up, right? Like it's almost set up for us to fail because it should be easy to say no, right? It should be a harder kind of burden of proof or whatever to say yes to things. But we're programmed to always extend and extend and overextend. And the people that we look up to are these crazy multitaskers, right? I mean, I think of like these star people like Jessica Alba, who runs Honest, and
Yeah.
Gwyneth Paltrow that runs Goop or whatever. And you've got all these people that you think, man, like Elon Musk, they do it all. And look at Mark Zuckerberg, but in fact, they've got teams
Yeah.
of people doing a lot of that stuff for them. And they're the folks like Bob Iger, if you know who he is, CEO of
Yeah.
Disney, like really said he only worked 4 hours a day in the middle of the day and then had his team doing all the rest. Right. And we don't see that. And so we just kind of get caught up in this, I guess in a weird keeping up with the Joneses kind of moment, or maybe for us, we'll call it keeping up with the Patels, where you're like, oh, this person is doing this. I need to do this. I need to do that too. I need to somehow, have the super long CV and all that stuff. And we are really just societally primed to fail. And I think what I connect with what you're saying is we need to normalize self-care. And what I say in my practice is self-care feels selfish, but taking care of yourself is also taking care of the hundreds, if not thousands of people who depend on you to function properly for their
True.
existence to function properly.
True. It's so true. And Ayurveda taught us some really beautiful self-care rhythms to bring in. And I love them because they're like a constant reminder to take care of yourself first. Kaphas won't do it. Pittas, we're going to try to go create 10 new companies and projects. And the Vata crew, so distracted, they're not actually tuning into their art. They are like the artists and creatives who bring all those beautiful ideas into the world. And so we teach simple self-care rituals like when you wake up in the morning, touch the ground, touch your forehead, and set an intention. Like pause long enough to set an intention. Do some deep breathing. We call it pranayam, bringing pranic life force into the body, which we know is so good for us. Ayurveda is a sister science to yoga. And so, doing some yoga, doing some beautiful stretches in the morning to prime the body, get the lymphatic system moving, and starting our day. We teach simple things like hydrating first thing, bringing in water into the system, maybe putting it in a copper lined cup so it's mineralized before we start our day. We want everyone to go to the bathroom every day. So half of this is like to get you to go to the bathroom and never be constipated because that is a detox moment that happens.
Yeah.
Or Ayurveda says, let's use a copper tongue scraper, and gently scraping the tongue 7 to 14 times. We teach in Ayurveda, just like in reflexology, all the organs are reflected on the bottom of the feet. In Ayurveda, they're reflected on the tongue. And so we do tongue analysis. We always say, can I see your tongue? And you can tell if someone's got a toxin burden, if there's a white film there or any sort of red spots, you can say, we've got some issues to work on. And so scraping the tongue is a way to really detox all the organs of the body and ignite the digestive fire. Then we talk about oil pulling, which is
I was gonna
becoming
say
really famous on
it is. I
TikTok
mean,
right now.
coconut oil is a thing, right?
Exactly. And people are talking about take a tablespoon of oil, put it in your mouth, swish it around, move it around for 5 to 20 minutes. I know that sounds long, but you can do this in the shower or on your morning walk. And then when you spit it out in the trash, not your toilet sink or shower. You'll clog up the
Let's
pipes of
plug
your
the
home.
drains.
Yeah, don't clog the drains. But it's so good because we're clearing up our oral health. And for decades, we've known oral health is heart health. So
Hmm.
isn't it interesting? And now we know oral health is gut microbiome health. It's all connected. And Ayurveda already knew this 5,000 years ago.
Right.
Ayurveda built a whole system and rhythm around our gut being the healthiest it can be. And so that's why I love to teach these rituals because they're like little tiny things we do, but it all adds up to such a profound result.
Well, and
And
another one is dry brushing. What is dry
yes,
brushing, right? That's part of like, I mean, do you literally
yes,
just take like a brush and brush
yes.
yourself? Like, what is that all
No,
about?
I don't have one sitting around, but you take a dry brush and you gently brush the skin from the feet all the way up to the neck. And I've actually moved that as a morning ritual into my evening sleep hygiene rituals because there's only so much time in the morning when you have kids. So I'm like, in the evening, I can put a towel down and do some great sleep rituals. But what we're doing is we're gently moving the lymphatic system. Ayurveda said there's something in us close to the skin that connects everything. And then only recently it was proven that fascia exists and the whole
Mhm.
body is interconnected. And lately we're talking about the lymphatic system, which we never talked about before. And
Right.
so Ayurveda
Yeah.
said the lymphatic system matters. We need to clean and clear this system or we're always going to be backed up and we're always going to be sick. And so it's interesting how many of the rituals we have dry brushing. And then after that, we have one called Abhyang massage. And that's where I kept the word. I didn't change it. But Abhyang massage means taking food grade organic oil. It can be coconut oil, sesame oil, olive oil, any of the good oils out there. And you gift it to the body. So imagine you put down a towel and you put down a good amount of that oil and you massage the body from your feet up to your neck. And you could also do a head oil massage if you want. If you want that thicker Indian hair, we're very lucky with our hair. But it's going to really heal the body, nourish the skin. We consider it lubricating to the joints. So I tell everyone if you've got dry joints, dry skin, do this and go in circular motions around your elbows, your knees, things like that. And what are we doing here? We're taking a moment of grounding, going inward, focusing on ourselves, setting ourselves up for amazing, profound, high quality sleep. And so all these practices add up. And I know it sounds like that was way too many rituals. Just pick one a day, just pick two a day. On the
Mhm.
weekend, do all of them and see how good you feel. And you might want to do them more. And so that's what I go over in the book is how to build those into your life. And you can see just from one or two of those how your health shifts and thus how much more optimal you can feel.
Yeah, it's like that atomic habits, do 1% change, right? Like just try little things. And what I tell people is do what seems easiest to you first. There's no right or wrong order, probably, in any of this stuff. It's
Nope.
funny that you mentioned the dry brushing, because I was just reading an article about how you dry yourself in the shower. And I don't
Yeah.
know what your routine, but I kind of start centrally and go out, right? I'll towel dry my hair, I do my chest, my back, and then kind of from the shoulders down. And they were suggesting, no, you need to do the opposite of that. Start at your feet and go up,
Yeah.
right? Or your hands and go in, and that stimulates the lymphatics. I mean,
Sure.
just something that I'd never thought of,
Sure.
right? But it's something that doesn't take a ton of effort, right? And as you mentioned, making these part of your daily habits. What I mean, I guess other than the drip, the location of which way we drip, right? Is that going from like out to in or distal to proximal, as we'd say in medical terms? It doesn't really take that much, right? Yeah, it's a shift. It's probably like brushing your teeth with your opposite hand. It feels awkward at first, but then you get used to it. But there are things that we can do tactically to deploy these lifestyle changes. I wanted to shift in because you've mentioned a few times about diet, and you mentioned like cooling foods and heating foods. So as we talk about the Ayurvedic practice, is it assigning these levels of heat and cold to certain foods that drives it? Are there other kind of things? How do spices come into the mix? Because
Sure.
I know a lot of things are a lot of the, you mentioned therapeutic spices. So how does this all come together in our dietary habits and our diet lifestyles?
For sure. So in Ayurveda, we teach something called the sattvic lifestyle and the sattvic diet. That just means what's like a yogic diet. And so if you ate like a yogi, you would eat delicious fresh food that was really nurturing to the body, nutrient dense. Then we talk about a circadian diet. So we want everyone to eat according to their circadian clock and then customize that to their constitution. So for example, I'm a Pitta, I'm all fire. If you put food in front of me, I'm going to put hot sauce and pepper on it. And so
So
the
you have
practice
Taco
is
Bell sauce in your purse, like that's the
yes,
classic auntie move.
Cholula. Like I literally sometimes travel with Cholula because I need it. And then I'm like, well,
So
you're a Pitta, so when you're
is
out of
is
balance,
that part of the questionnaire on drshivani.com? Like, do you carry your own hot sauce?
are
Yes.
you that crazy? Yeah. I mean, when people offer me Tabasco, I'm always like, oh, please don't do that. I hate that stuff. I need like the good stuff.
That's like
Um,
my mother-in-law, same thing.
Yeah, yeah, and I travel with my own tea as well. Like I need it.
Mm.
I need these things proper. I can't take it otherwise. So yeah, I mean, a pitta person is going to want everything hot and spicy. But if they are, for example, in the summer season, they should not do that. That's going to throw you out of balance. We're meant to eat the summer foods in the summer that are cooling, coconut water, fresh fruit that has sweetness to it, watermelon, like all these things cool the system. And pittas can strategically take those same summer cooling foods and use them throughout the year as needed. So, for example, if you're going through a really intense portion of your year and you can tell you're burning out, still reach for those cooling foods to cool yourself from the inside. So, it's kind of a strategy with food, with drinks, with things to kind of balance ourselves. And that's something I really love from Ayurveda. Then, when we talk about the spices, I call the spices super spices because in the West, we're obsessed with our superfoods. We think
Mhm.
between the salmon, spinach, and blueberries, we've got it. And we're always
And
buying all the
acai and whatever is the next thing
acai.
that is supposed
Exactly.
to heal my everything. Yeah.
Correct. And we're finding all those superfoods and we're shoving them into our protein shakes in the morning. But I think we've forgotten that ancient India, ancient Ayurveda gave us these super spices and they're equally beneficial because they give us the same benefits. We're seeking antioxidant, anti inflammatory benefits and immune support. And so when I started studying the spices in India, I realized phytobotanicals out of India are being studied at pharmaceutical level studies right now. It's incredible when you go there. And so I did my whole PhD dissertation on turmeric and became an evangelist of turmeric and its power. And I am always talking about turmeric, probably too much. But turmeric is very powerful. It's anti inflammatory, antioxidant, antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal. It's so powerful from an anti aging perspective. I spoke at A4M and presented all that science for how it affects zombie cells, our senolytic cells. It causes cell apoptosis, causes cell death of those cells that need to go. But it's also helpful for the gut lining, the anti H. pylori, anti parasitic. So there's like 100 ways I could explain turmeric, but what people use it for the most, I would say, is their joint pain, their aches and pains. If they wake up stiff as we're aging, I talk to people a lot about inflammaging and how it's not just inflammation and it's not just aging, it's this inflammaging that's happening. And we think it's normal, but it's not normal. And we need to put a plan in place so that we're attacking that inflammation and not really losing our mobility, flexibility, freedom to do everything we want to do.
Yeah, and
So
I mean,
I
for
look at
anyone who
turmeric.
grew up
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
well, for anyone who grew up in a brown house, right, an Indian house or, Southeast Asian house or whatever, we know turmeric, right? I mean, I
Hmm.
remember like for everything, it was like Windex and Big Fat Greek Wedding. Oh, you've got, an ache and pain, you fell off your bike here. My grandma would make this turmeric paste, or, oh, you've got stage 4, lung cancer here, have some extra turmeric. And so it kind of seemed a little bit nutty, a little bit crazy at the time. But what I
Yeah.
love, and folks like you are doing and, studying this in the PhD realm, is now you went from that kind of grandma wisdom,
Yeah.
right, into really understanding the molecular biology basis, the cell biology basis of how the curcuminoids work, and how it's not just one, right, but there's
Yeah.
families of curcuminoids, and how
Correct.
each of them modulate something completely different. And now we're using them therapeutically. I mean, I think to, an orthopedic trial and a cancer trial, both of which come to mind, using turmeric as an adjunct for pain
Right.
management, and how it actually synergized with pain medicine so that you needed less of the conventional pain medicine as you increase your turmeric or your curcuminoid intake, because it does modulate things at a cellular level so well. And when I went through my functional medicine training, I remember doing IFM modules, and they would talk about, all these amazing things that you can do. And it was like all Indian spices. I'm like, wow, like how did our people know this? Right? Like thousands of years, like they didn't have microscopes. I mean, they didn't have anything, but they somehow figured it out, sorted it out. And
Yeah.
it's beautiful. The other thing I love about it is this beautiful harmony and synergy between nature and humans, right? Is that nature
Correct.
provides and humans kind of use. And there's this wonderful kind of interplay that happens when we do this correctly.
True. It's so true. I mean, I find it fascinating the power of turmeric, power of ginger, cumin, coriander, which is cilantro, the fact that our garam masala, our mixed spice, had black pepper, that increased the absorption of the turmeric. We know healthy fat increases the absorption. We always use ghee. Ghee
Yeah.
is now considered its own superfood. So it is incredible that the ancient wisdom had already figured this out for us and then put it into an entire style of cooking so that billions of people over 5,000 years, maybe even trillions, took this food and ate it every day and benefited from it. And I think that's why we're seeing such a beautiful prevalence of this study of the spices in such a serious way. My hope is over time, I can fund my own double blind placebo controlled trials and keep proving across each section of medicine the power of turmeric, because you mentioned for orthopedics. So when I built my formula 10 years ago, I built it for orthopedics. I just wanted to
Well,
prove to ortho, you do not have to give people like me NSAIDs at that level because some of us can't handle it. I can't take
well,
NSAIDs 24/7 for 10 days. I get stomach
and I
aches.
mean, well, and I had a family member who developed an ulcer, a perforated ulcer from NSAIDs after a knee replacement. So I know that this is not good, right? Like I've lived it myself.
And my dream was every time you go to an ortho, I just want them to say, you can take turmeric for that. I wanted them to have that faith that there is turmeric that exists, that's third party tested, that's made in the US, that's made properly for potency, using those curcuminoids
Right.
at that correct ratio, at the highest potency to actually deliver a result. So that's what I did 10 years ago. And then all my doctors still call me and they're like, this is insane. Do you know how many patients just take turmeric and they don't do the other things? Do you know how many
Yeah.
people come running into my office to buy your turmeric? So to me it's exciting. Like that's how we shift humanity, is we put solutions into the places where people are going to go every day. And so
Yeah.
even the British Medical Journal recently published a paper that curcumin is as effective as PPIs with less side effects. So we're going to
For
keep
for,
seeing.
for gastroesophageal reflux.
Exactly. So we're going to
Wow.
see again and again that happening in my lifetime. And then I'd like to do it across every subspecialty and just keep showing people natural stuff works. It's very simple. Mother Nature gave it to us. Our body knows what to do with it. It's
Yeah.
built for us to use. And the body really knows how to receive it and put it where it needs to go. And I think that's where the Ayurvedic wisdom is so powerful. Ayurveda taught us how to really create formulas in synergy. And so anytime we were going to approach inflammation, we would add not just the curcumin, but boswellia, dried ginger, amla, the black pepper. And that's how we would formulate to give someone that whole complete solution. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of wisdom there.
For sure. And as you're talking, you mentioned different spices and things, but are there, getting back to the doshas, right? Are there specific doshas that are associated with certain disease types, like more like pittas get this, or vatas get this, or cancer tends to happen here, or heart disease tends to happen there? Like, are there, do these, and you kind of talked about it a little bit at the outset, but what are the specific disease states that each dosha needs to be cautious of?
Sure. So a Vata person, you're going to see a lot more gut issues, a lot more constipation. Their insomnia and disrupted sleep will drive a lot of the things we know now are driven by poor sleep. They're going to have a lot more of the anxiety. So they're that overwhelmed, over anxiety crew. And our job is to like pacify, slow the type down, show them how to be grounded and centered. And we didn't really have cancer in the Ayurvedic texts that I saw. So
People probably didn't died before cancer would form, probably once
correct,
upon a time.
correct.
Yeah,
That's not one I can correlate in, but you could look at like modern day Ayurvedic practitioners who can correlate that one.
yeah.
Then Pitta, fire. It's all inflammation, heart disease, heartburn. Like fire is just coming out of us 24/7. And so
Dumpster fire. Not, or what do you say? House fire.
yeah,
Like,
it's like a true fire. Like I can tell when I'm dysregulated because I'm mad, and I'm like, "Oh, we're angry. Can you please go hydrate?"
isn't
Like
that just perimenopause or whatever?
could be, could be. Add perimenopause on top
I
of a
love,
bit that,
I
and
love the
I can tell you what that looks like.
oh man, that's like a fire on top of a fire. Anyway, sorry.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, so then you have to like double down on the Ayurvedic practices then, which I think we're teaching, right? Sleep and how to eat and
just
all
dump a
that.
bucket of ghee on my wife every once in a while, maybe.
Exactly, exactly. And ice water too. We
She
need
might not
both.
love it.
Probably not. And then you've got Kapha. Kapha is going to suffer with that sluggish metabolism. They're going to suffer with more depression and feeling low. So you can correlate that to like, okay, we need to focus on that gut health. We need to get everything churning and burning and moving, metabolism support. Kaphas
Yeah.
already have deep slumber. They sleep the best. And so it's really that metabolic support. Get them moving, gut
Well,
health.
I was gonna say probably like insulin
Inflammation.
resistance and type 2 diabetes and things is probably something that they've got. And I mean, I can see, as you're speaking, I'm thinking back to the patients I've had over the years and what an amazing framework,
Yeah,
this could be to
yeah.
look at them, right? I mean,
I met
I mean
Dr.
that's
I met with Dr. David Perlmutter at
mhm.
Eudaimonia last year, and I was like, I teach Ayurveda. He goes, I love Ayurveda. I used it on all my patients. I used to use this on everyone. I know how to do every piece of it. And I was like, whoa. And so he came on my podcast and shared that. And I thought, what if every physician knew to kind of type their patient and then give some guidance accordingly?
Yeah. Well, and so as we talk about lifestyles, so you talked about morning routines, you
Yeah,
talked about evening routines. We talked a little bit about maybe we can talk about food timing,
sure.
and we talked about intermittent fasting. So some people are better at intermittent fasting than others, but is there like specific foods and like sizes of meals? Does how much you eat matter as much as what you eat and the timing? Like how does Ayurveda approach meals?
For sure. In the book, I actually put a bunch of recipes and I put daily timesheets that are ideal for each constitution because this is such a great question. For example, a Vata person is meant to have 3 square meals a day with healthy fat. We want them to eat real food because they're going to try to get away with a coffee or like a muffin and not real heavy square meals. And so we want those 3 meals to go in. And it's harder than it sounds. For the rest of us, it's very easy. And for the Vatas, that's a real practice, but it can completely shift their energy. It can shift their ability to focus, to complete the tasks that they start. It can shift digestion. All of a sudden, we create oleation of that digestive system, and we're really going to undo the constipation and all the dryness that they're experiencing. And that's going to shift gut health, which shifts mental health. And then all of a sudden, we're off and running and winning. And so with Vatas, it's very much like wake up in the morning and have a warm grounding meal, a real lunch. And Ayurveda talks about how 10 to 2 on the circadian clock, again, is Pitta. That's the fire time of day. And we're most supported to eat our biggest meal. And so, one habit we have in modern day life is we work all day, we get home, we have our biggest meal that's comforting, and then we don't move off the couch and we're exhausted, and then we go to bed. And half of people, I think, fall asleep on the couch as well.
You just described my last night. Yeah.
and so and so the goal is, can we shift that bigger meal into lunchtime? And Ayurveda says that that fire is actually the strongest to digest our hard to digest foods. So if you're going to eat superfoods or nuts or things that could be harder to digest, put them into your lunchtime or at least in that 10 to 2 window. So
And
good warm meal. Yeah,
yeah, and no, and that actually tracks when we even talk about intermittent fasting, right?
correct.
And like a 16-8 where you're feeding in an 8-hour window and fasting for 16.
Yeah,
The science shows that overall, if you can do an earlier eating windows, so like 8 a.m. to like 4 p.m. or whatever the number of hours work out to be. That is so much healthier than during a late fast, like a noon to 8 or something like that. And it
Correct.
it kind of perfectly aligns with what you're, again, the science follows the wisdom in this case.
Yeah, and I think we'll see that more and more. I think, we've already proved gut microbiome, gut brain access to brain. Our mental health issues are tied to our gut health. Like every single piece of Ayurveda is being proven by modern science. In the 70s, this group of three men won a Nobel Peace Prize for proving that the circadian clock is true. And all of Ayurveda was like, yep, we've known that. Or when Ayurveda came to America and everyone's like, turmeric makes mustard yellow. What are you
Yeah.
talking about? Turmeric can't help with metabolic health or anything you're talking about. And all the Ayurvedic doctors were like, yeah, it's okay. You'll see. And then now turmeric's like 17,000 published papers
Well,
in
and
PubMed.
you can go to, I can't remember the smoothie place, and you can, it hurts my soul, but it's like $5 for a turmeric shot
I
for them to
know.
add. I'm like, you can get like a whole like big
Box.
vat of that stuff for like $5 at the Indian store, right? But
True.
it's just where it's at. So let's talk a little bit, about fusionary formulas.
Sure.
And so now again, as you are using the book to instill these habits, you've actually made it easier for people to find, and you referenced this before, kind of the higher quality supplements. And I think that when we talk about supplementation, you definitely need to know where they're coming from. Just like with your fruits and veggies, I say you always need to know the first name of the person growing your food, shop at local farmers markets and things. So what makes your supplement line different? Or, what are some of the almost conditions that would absolutely need to use some of the formulas that you have?
For sure. So, what most people don't know is out of the entire turmeric plant, only 3% of it, 3 to 5%, is the curcuminoids. And out of those curcuminoids, curcumin is the most effective at reducing inflammation. And so, we have a lot of formulas out there where people make supplements to just make a profit. We've seen studies done where it was the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times who went into big box retailers, picked up the supplements, third party tested them, and found that
Right.
over 75% of them don't have the active ingredients as stated on the label. And that's what scared me because when I finished the PhD, I thought, okay, I'm going to tell everyone to take turmeric for everything because I do think it applies to 99% of life's problems. And then everyone would say, who should I buy? And I'd say, well, I don't know. I'm going to go look. I'll go look at Whole Food Sprouts. I'll figure it out for us. But I couldn't find one that I trusted. And so I partnered up with a factory and I said, okay, we're going to make the best turmeric on earth. And I found a supplier and an ingredient that was so potent. We were reaching 97, 98% grade potency. And the factory said, you can't use that ingredient. And I said, why? They're like, that's too expensive. That's not how you build a supplement
Mm.
company. And I said, well, what if I took that medical grade ingredient? They were like, no, pharma uses that stuff. You don't use. And I was like, no, 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 you watch me. So I put it in a formula, built the whole company, and they said, you're going to be bust and out of business in under a year. This is not sensible. But once I put it in doctors' hands, the doctors were like, that really works. Like, we've never seen a supplement work like that. That's amazing. And so that was the beginning stage of my company. And it did take 7 years for us to make any sense out of what I made. But at least I proved to like thousands of doctors what's possible. And that was my dream. I just wanted to prove the power of turmeric and what it can do. And it's really cool because now I get phone calls every day. I get texts and emails every day. I have people walking up to me at my gym. They're like, my finger hurt and I couldn't find anything to fix it. And now I have no pain. My knee hurt. I couldn't work out. I have no pain. And so to me, the fact that turmeric can take you from that like 8 level of pain down to a 2, I tell people we're not the same as opioids. We can't take you to a 0, but
Yeah.
we can bring it down pretty significantly and it's natural. There's no side effects. It is a blood thinner. It's a vasodilator. We have to watch out for anyone on blood thinners. But other than that, it's pretty safe. It's pretty effective. We've seen that in the research. So to me, it's a really exciting moment where people are finally very open to natural solutions. Physicians are more open to natural solutions as well. They're seeking that. The patient's coming in and asking for it anyway. So why not find the more trusted companies that are in the functional medicine space and recommend those so that people actually get the benefit? Because a lot
For
of
sure.
people are wasting time and money. People tell
Well,
me all the time, I'm wasting my time. I take
well,
it, but I don't feel anything.
and there's a lot of pushback against the supplement universe, right, from conventional medicine, because they say you just have expensive urine and stuff. And for a
Yeah.
lot, a lot of times that's right. It's funny, as you're talking, I thought of a great tagline for you. I got 99 problems, but inflammation ain't one.
Oof, I
So
love
that
it.
one I'll just give to you for free. I love that one. That's just kind of popped in my head, as Jay-Z
Thank you.
does from time to time.
Yeah.
So if like for listeners right now or people who are watching the podcast, what do you feel are some of the high power lifestyle diet Ayurvedic kind of changes that maybe they can listen to? We call them Monday morning kind of shifts, but who knows what day people are listening to this, right? So right now, like if you could say, these are Shivani's top 5 things, pick one and run with it from the entire playbook and arsenal of all the Ayurvedic things. Right. I think number one, go to your website, learn your specific dosha, right? Learn like your makeup and composition. But are there like universal things that all of us can do from the Ayurvedic tradition that can help us achieve better health?
For sure. My number one is know your elemental design. Take the quiz, know if you are more air, fire, or earth, so you have a new path for how you manage yourself. My number two would be buy a copper tongue scraper because that thing will last you for life. And gently scraping the tongue is a simple way to detox every day. And then we don't accumulate and not have to do those bigger annual detoxes as big. My number three would be aligned to your circadian rhythm. So walk in nature, preferably twice a day, even 3 times a day, but as much as you can, walk, move in nature, really aligned to the sun so that your circadian clock can be on point and on the right rhythm. My number four would be building a sleep hygiene ritual. I think sleep is so key. And part of the issue is we're just running towards sleep on our phones and not getting the high quality sleep that will help us clear inflammation. So, moving that sleep clock towards 10 to 2 as close as we can be a huge shift when we talk about winning at inflammation. And then my number five would be take your turmeric because turmeric will get you there. It'll reduce that inflammation, but then you can still go back and do all these lifestyle practices. And that's what the book was. The book is the guidebook to win at inflammation. Sometimes we need to take that turmeric and get it down fast, but then build that space and that energy to move and win with the lifestyle. Because if you don't win with lifestyle, the supplement can't do the work. Like we need both. It's a
Yeah.
synergy.
Well, and I tell people all the time, you can't, grass or seeds won't take if you plant them on cement, right? And
True.
so for all of these interventions that we take, if you're not doing the underlying lifestyle, and I kind of think of that as fertilizing the soil, right? Unless you're taking care of that soil, no matter what you do, no matter what medication you're taking, no matter what supplement you're doing, no matter how many meditation classes you take, right? If you're still in
True.
that wired and tired, go, 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 sympathetic, driven, eating crap foods, kind of nothing is going to work. And then we tend to blame the intervention that we're trying to do as opposed to understanding that's really our lifestyle that's unwinding what we want. So from the book, so the book is out, came out a few days ago, available. Where can we get it?
The book
Like
is on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, everywhere books are sold.
anywhere books are sold. I love when people say that. And so who when you think in your mind, you close your eyes and you picture the ideal person who you want to look at your book, right? Like this is the person that can get the most out of this. Who would that be?
I wrote the book for that woman who is going through her perimenopause journey, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond, who's like, I want my health to be better. I have already tried everything, I've already done everything, and I work hard for my health, and I'm not winning. Something is still off. I don't feel good. I don't feel great. There's something where I don't feel like myself in my own body. I wrote this book for her because this book is a way to come back to ourselves.
Yeah, and I think that particular patient oftentimes gets so gaslit in the medical, it's like in the conventional medical space.
For
Oh no,
sure.
you're oh you're doing this wrong, or I check your labs and everything is okay, even though you feel like garbage. And I think there's this whole kind of like lost group of women that just don't know, like I know my body doesn't feel normal. I don't want to be like this all the time. I don't want to not sleep and be angry all the time and all these things, but they just don't know where to turn to. And I think that turning to Ayurveda and diet lifestyle is so essential for all of us, but particularly that group of women. So
True.
so I'm excited. Like I said, I read the book a couple of weeks ago. Can't wait to get a print copy and take a look at it again, because I think so many of the principles in there are so timeless. And we mentioned perimenopause and cardiometabolic, but it's really anything, right? Gut
Yeah.
health and hormone health and diet and skin health. There's a whole thing about skin, right, in Ayurveda, and mental, anxiety, depression, all of these things, all of this can be improved. I would never say cured by for
True.
anything, but certainly can be improved or impacted by proper diet and lifestyle. So, Dr. Gupta, thank you so much for being here. It's been, what was it? Vanessa? That was your Starbucks
Yes.
name? So I'm going to call you that now. It's so
Oh,
funny.
God.
We've got a family member who her name is Kunj, but her Starbucks name is Crystal, which I
I
think
love it.
it just cracked me up. But you can just make up anything when you're brown and people believe it, I guess. But thank you so much for being here. Now, before we end, I always ask 3 questions of all my guests. Nothing too crazy, but just some kind of getting to know you questions. So, number 1, what is your favorite food on earth? Regardless of health, doesn't have to be healthy and Ayurveda, but if there's just one thing that you could eat all day, every
Ever.
day, and be just like, in your zone of happy all the time, what would that be?
I'm a Texas girl, so my
Okay.
food is nachos. I could truly live off nachos until the day I died.
It's funny. I didn't realize that Tex-Mex is its own thing. I
Oh,
was
yeah.
flying to Austin, and we got delayed, and so I was like talking to the people in the who's that? You said there's one that talks to everybody, right? One group. Anyway,
Yeah.
um, so I'm talking to all the people, and I started this whole thread about, okay, I'm in town for 48 hours. Which barbecue joint should I go to? And I thought it would be a simple question. We are delayed for like 6 hours on this flight, and that was like 5 hours, 59 minutes of that. But then I didn't realize a separate thread had started about Tex-Mex,
Yeah.
and it is its own. Like I just thought it's Mexican food in Texas, but that is not the case. So
No.
nachos, love
Yeah.
it on there. Number 2, what's your favorite place on earth? that
Ooh,
that where would you be forever and ever? Somewhere you vacationed or somewhere you aspire to go one day?
it's Italy. I studied abroad in Italy, and I make it my life mission to go there every year. And now I'm just expanding it. 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Like, all I want to do is live in Italy and eat in that area around Mount Etna where the food is fresh and good, and a girl like me can eat the gluten. Like,
Well,
that's my happy place all
and
day.
well, and like those olive trees, I mean, these are like hundreds of thousands of years old. Like
Yeah.
the lineage of these things, you almost feel like you're eating history. So I
Yeah.
totally get it.
Yeah.
And then number 3 question: outside of your field of Ayurveda, what is something that keeps you curious? Something that you love to learn about? For me, for instance, I love history and I love Antiques Roadshow. That's like my guilty pleasure show. Like I just love the artifacts and the history associated with this thing. So what keeps you curious outside of Ayurveda?
I want to be a race car driver, like NASCAR Formula One. I kind of drive like I am one, so people
Oh
find
no.
it so funny because me on an express lane, you just I don't even want to talk to anyone. I just want to enjoy the car that I'm in. So yeah, race car driving is like my secret hobby, passion, interest in this life.
All right. Well, definitely wear a helmet because you have a very expensive head. So don't do anything crazy. But thank you so much for being here. So we mentioned your website. So if people are looking for the book, you mentioned Amazon, Barnes and Noble, anywhere books are sold.
Sure.
And where can they find you if they want to learn more?
Sure. So my website is my name, shivanigupta.com, ShivanIGupta. And I'm at dr.shivanigupta on Instagram. The book is theinflammationcode.com, and that's the name of my podcast now. And then the supplement company is fusionaryformulas.com, Fusionary. And I made a code Curious15 will give your listeners 15% off.
Awesome. And we'll obviously link that all in the notes so you don't have to memorize that, but it's very awesome. I have such a great time talking to you every time we interact. Like I love when we run into each other at conferences, things. So Shivani, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And it was just a pleasure to connect with you again.
Yeah, thank you. We always have so much fun together,
We
Sanjay.
always have so
Thanks.
much fun.
Thanks for having
And
me.
of course, and for our listeners out there, thank you guys for taking the time out of your lives to listen to this as well. I think this is a fascinating topic and definitely more to come. Like I said, I'd read Dr. Gupta's book a couple of weeks ago and definitely suggest it as one of the books that really opened my eyes to the power of something I'd never thought of before, right? So again, looking at old problems in new ways through old frameworks, I guess, is now what we'll add to Ayurveda, right? So absolutely amazing time. So thank you guys. Again, thank you guys for being here. If you liked what you heard today, then please like the podcast and subscribe. I don't know where on the screen it is, upper corner, lower corner, above and below, but depending on your platform, wherever that button is, take the 30 seconds to find it, click it, and also leave a comment. Love interacting with you guys, understanding what you're going through. If you have topics that you want me to talk about or people you think I should meet, then definitely let me know. And I'll catch you on the next Curious Cardiologist podcast. Bye, everybody.